it did not help my whole public speaking fear. But I decided that since I did such a sucky job that time, it might behoove me to try and practice this time before I go to London this month in about 2 weeks to do this presentation for Eroticon, which is a erotica conference tailored towards people who write sex stuff, journalists, sex bloggers, people who have been doing it a long time, and also people who are brand new to it. So my whole presentation is about when you are a sex blogger, how much do you share online, how personal do you get, and when you step in shit, what do you do? So that's what I've done so many times. And I think that the more open and raw and vulnerable you are, the more you are open to attack and judgment and bad things. But there are solutions. So I am going to tell you about it. So, fine. So I started out with the blogging career back in 2005, and I was an anonymous blogger, and my thing was a lot of mishmash. It wasn't sex focused at the time. And I was trying to figure out a little cute name for my blog, and it was really cute that my daughter came up with the name. She is 17 today, but back then she was about 5 years old in 2005. And we were driving along in the car one day, and she said to me, she said, "Mommy, what kind of people are we?" And I thought, oh, I don't know. And then we're driving along, and a moment later she answered, she said, "I know, we are the beautiful kind." And I said, "That's a great name. Oh my gosh." So I grabbed it, made it my blog, and I started out doing this anonymous ranting. So I would complain about people hitting on me in the grocery store, and I would complain about this. I'm a very negative Nancy if you let me do that. I will totally bitch about anything. But then one day I had this post about a sex thing that I did. And and by the way, the blog that you see today, thebeautifulkind.com, all of the posts are from 2011 to present, so all the other old stuff is just kind of archived away. But anyway, so the one blog post that I wrote about sex was this one. And it was about this oral sex I had on the front porch of an antebellum mansion in Columbia, Missouri during a thunderstorm. And it was super hot, and this guy was very werewolfish, and it was a really nice scene. And people loved it, and they thought that was a really nice thing. And I thought, oh, well, great, okay, well, I'm going to start writing more about this sex thing because it seems to be kind of popular. So then I started doing my little bloggy thing, and I wanted to be really popular, and I was writing a lot about this stuff in 2006 and 2007, and there were plenty of early pitfalls. For one thing, I used to feature a lot of different fetishes, like shaved heads and things like that. And one time I featured a charity called St. Baldrick's Society, which is a really good charity that promotes curing children's cancer. And they do this big head shaving thing every year. And I put that on my blog, and they found it and contacted me and said, "Take our name off your website." So you have to be very aware of those kind of things, that you want to make sure that you get permission before you put things and attach things to your brand, I guess, you know. And you also have to keep in mind images. So I am a little bit of a thief when it comes to downloading stock photos, and I do have a stock photo on this slideshow, so don't tell anyone, whatever. But most of the pictures on my blog are original, meaning that someone stood there and took a picture of me, because I know that that's okay. And it was funny because one time I did have a picture of myself on my blog, and this one porn site told me to take it down, and it was a copyright infringement, but it was me. So I was like, haha, must look good. So. And then there was this other time where I thought, since I was anonymous, I could just say whatever I want and there was no consequences. And my sister-in-law, who at the time was a very religious woman, I didn't think she was reading my blog, and I kind of said something about her anonymously, not her name or anything, but I was kind of like, ha ha, or whatever. And she saw it and just called me up and got so mad at me. So this really religious sister-in-law was reading my blog after all. So there's a lot of people out there reading lots of things, and you just don't know. And you also have to consider timing of when to post things. So some people will have a really exciting experience and then just publish it right away and immediately regret it. And I've tried really hard not to do that. I've tried to let things process. I like to let things marinate and sit. And it's also important if you have other people involved, which most of the time my blog posts involve 2 or more people. I like to get permission from them and clear that. And finally, one of my good takeaways from when you're doing sex blogging or anything in general is be careful who you give access to your website, because I was dating all these different wonderful men and just having a really fun time, and there were some website nerds and these kind of people and all these great people. And so this one guy was helping me with my website, and we had a falling out and we broke up, but he still had access to my blog. And one day I went to go look at my website, and lo and behold, he had deleted it and replaced it with this. And this was before I came out. This was absolutely not cool. And so I was so horrified by that. And I immediately found one of my other website nerd friend guys, and he helped me get into this website again. I had a backup. Always do your backups. Because that was my life, the blog, all these stories just being deleted. It would be horrible. And we got the website back up again. And just so you know, a long time later, the guy did apologize for being such an asshole. So, thanks. Okay. And you can go ahead. Oh, thank you. Yeah, get rid of that one. I don't like it. So, that guy is not a good person, but I have lots and lots of other people who are awesome. And pictured here, I guess it's a little hard to see here, but this is me and a couple of my co-leaders with Sex Positive St. Louis. And I have featured so many people that you know on my blog, and they go by different aliases. And it's important to, of course, get permission, but also take the pictures in a careful way so that they're not too identifiable. So that's another good practice. And there was another project I did back in the day, which I thought was super fun. If you go to my blog now, and in fact, if you do go to my blog, if you go to thebeautifulkind.com, at the very top, there's a whole list of links that line up with this slide presentation. So if you hear about something, you can kind of click on it and read the whole story behind it. People don't comment on the blog too much anymore, but they used to. It used to be this kind of popularity contest. People comment on your blog, you know, they're reading it. Oh my gosh, it's so good. And so I got into this little project where I would pick a commenter and then go out with them, fuck them, and then post a review about the sex we had. And that was a fun little series. So it was kind of like, you win, you lose. You know, because most of them were really good, but there were some that was a little bit not so good. And you know, like restaurant reviews and things, you have to be honest. So I learned that you have to be delicate with that, because people are human beings and you have to be sensitive to their feelings and things. So that was a fun project for a time, but I don't do that anymore. And people don't really comment anymore. They just sit and lurk and enjoy it, and they're still looking at me, and I love it. So, and if you can't write about every single thing, because there's still stuff that is so private that you really do need to find other safer outlets. So I do have a secret Facebook group that I get to vent to about certain things that I can't put out there. And Twitter, oh my gosh, Twitter I can't put so much because I have over 5,000 followers on there, and you can't just say everything. But every once in a while I'll put something anonymous up, and then that person gets to feel like a little cameo appearance in my little crazy life, and that's kind of fun. So I like social media. It's a nice tool to use too. Then we've got to consider this. So this is me a long time ago with my little daughter. She's 17 now. This is when she was 7. And she named the blog, and she knows where to find it, but she's not interested in this whole thing. So we've had so many good conversations. I've raised her to be sex positive, and if she wants to look at the blog, okay, fine, but she's not interested. So that's not a problem for me. But my parents, my dad, he reads the blog, and that I don't like that, but I'm not going to censor myself for it. He's a grown person. He makes that choice. So he's going to read it. It's fine. Whatever. My ex-husband, he knows about the blog. He doesn't go anywhere near it. He used to read it and was really grossed out by it, so he doesn't go there anymore. But you have to think about those things. What if my church reads it? What if my work reads it? You know, all those people are out there, and you want people to read it, but not all those people. But you just have to kind of let it go and decide that people are going to do what they're going to do. So. And then this was the worst blogging decision I ever made in my life, because I blurred lines in that everything I write on my blog is super duper true, but I thought it would be a fun little thing to combine two stories that I did. So I had a little gunplay scene in my house with an unloaded gun, and it was super hot and scary because guns are one of my big phobias. I hate it. But we also had kind of a rape fantasy garage scene with my partner. And I thought it'd be fun to combine those two and make it into a gunplay scene in a parking garage, which is a public place. And I learned that that was a very bad idea because there were people just really upset about it, understandably, because imagine if you're walking around in a parking garage and you see someone pulling a gun on someone, oh my God, it's not cool. So I learned that that was a very bad thing to do. But I couldn't say, just kidding, everyone, because then if I said that was a lie, they'd think everything else was made up too. And so I was in this, and it made my partner look like a real asshole and everything. So, but he had to just kind of sit down and just let it kind of work through. But at the same time, that's when his ex-wife discovered the blog. At that day, oh no. So that happened. Okay. So you just kind of let the dust settle a little bit. And then another one of my crowning moments, which was unfortunately was too true, was my scene where a man hired me to feed him a mug full of semen that I collected over the past 2 months and put in the freezer, and it was many, many loads of semen that my friends were donating, and it was a really crazy scene, and it involved handcuffs and a toothbrush and a pink teddy and all kinds of stuff. And that was the only time that I had someone actually sign a waiver to do some scene, because that's very, very edge play. And that got a lot of controversy and thoughts on that whole thing. So that happens, and then later on he turned out to be fine. So there's that. So it's good. It all worked out, but it was still one of my most challenging scenes I've ever done. And I covered it on the blog, which you can find on there. And then I also like to cover all those things. So a lot of people say there are 4 P's that I will never do: pain, pee, puke, play, blah, blah, blah. You know, so I think that you can add more P's to this. You can do as many P's as you want. But I have a pain, like so many pain posts, because pain and BDSM and pleasure and all that is interconnected. And I have like a little thing for pee-pee. I kind of like pee-pee, so pee-pee's on there. But poop, I do not like. But I tried it a couple times. You can read about that. You know, it's like, ugh, okay. So it's nice that you can try something and find out that it's not for you. And I did that. The puke thing, another one that was like, oh no, I did that once. I will never do that again. Pegging, super fun. That's a good thing. Yeah. So you can go and read about that. And it's great. And I have a much better strap-on harness thing now. This one is old school. I have a And then the pets thing, question mark. I can't remember if I've written about that, but I do like werewolves and beastie things and stuff, so I wouldn't be surprised if. And I love hairy things and stuff, so I don't know. So I have to go back and look at that. And then finally, pedophilia. There's more on that later in another slide, but that's kind of controversial. So, okay. Then, this is the turning moment in my whole thing, because all this time I was very anonymous and frolicking around and bragging and being very annoying and doing my thing, and I had a day job at a little local nonprofit, and I thought that my anonymous blog was a different life and I could do whatever I wanted there, but my employer Googled me, and there was this weird technical glitch, kind of social media glitch on Twitter with Topsy and things, and my name was attached to my website. And they found it And this was April of 2010 was the last time I was successfully slut shamed, because she called me into the office. She said, "How could you? You're like a teenage, what are you doing?" And that was the same day that I wrote about a bareback threesome I had, and it was super hot, and then I was embarrassed and got fired, and that was a very traumatic thing. And when I left that building and came home, I immediately took the blog down and had to sit there and think, oh my God, what am I going to do? Should I change my name? Should I go work at Target? Should I make minimum wage and just stay under the radar forever and be super embarrassed about this life that I've been doing all the time? But then I remembered that my motto is be open and honest. And so I thought, well, since I haven't been through enough BS, I think I'll just go for more. And so I decided that I would consciously put my name and face to my website and just really fully own it and claim it. And then let's see what happens. So then I got fired, and that happened, and it was all over all those media things and stuff. And the Riverfront Times did work with me. They're a local alternative weekly. They worked with me to do this big expose on my story, and that's when that happened in October, because October is usually coming out day. There's a day every year. Do you remember what day it is? October 5th or something? I don't remember. Anyway, so yeah. So I came out in October of 2010, and this was the cover, and it was so fun because that picture was just taken in my house. They had the screen up, and they did the little Venus on the half shell kind of theme, and it was really fun and nice, and I think it turned out very beautifully. But you might notice that I'm naked, and it was all over St. Louis, and my daughter went to a little private school at the time, and the parents were horrified. And the shitstorm happened, and I went through hell for 2 whole weeks. You know, like things go like this so fast. There's more things that happen all the time. So I came out, I got a lot of flack, I got a lot of fan letters, I got a lot of hate mail. There were people saying really crazy things about me, and one of the comments on the RFT article is that I'm a two-bagger, and a two-bagger is when you're having sex with someone and they're so ugly you wear a bag too in case the bag that they have on their face falls off. So, you know, just all those little fun little compliments and things. So, and then, oh yeah, my daughter was expelled from her little private school because before I came out in the RFT, I went to the school and I said to them, this is going to happen. This is going to be a piece that is going to be out there. And they said, we would never punish a child for her parents' actions. But then the parent pressure caused them to change their mind. So she did get expelled from the school. But the good news is that they were really private and that they didn't have a lot of the good resources that our public schools have in some districts. So she ended up at a better situation. But it was hard for her, it was hard for me, and she knows about the whole behind the scenes about it. So it's really something that because grown-ups can't handle this kind of stuff, which again, this wasn't even when I was doing sex work and stuff. This was just me being a sexually open person, and that was so punitive. So just be aware of that. But that was back in 2010. And then after that article came out, there was so much backlash that my ex-husband got a lot of heat as well. And he got so embarrassed by the whole thing, even though he wasn't named or anything, but people can figure it out, that he decided to sue me for full custody because he wanted to teach me a lesson. And part of the being sued was for being an unfit mother, having sex toys in the house, and some other things like that. That was, I think I had a swinger profile up or something. That's very bad when you're doing things and you have a kid. Even if the kid's not there, it's still very bad. So I had to start thinking about all kinds of stuff. I was fired. I needed to do fundraising, and I did this big head shaving thing. So now I've got this hair now, but I had my shaved head for a while, and that was really fun to go through. But it wasn't so fun that I was going around begging for money and trying to raise money for my legal defense fund and all this shit. And then my PayPal account got banned at that very moment for having adult content, so I still can't use PayPal, which is kind of inconvenient, but a lot of things are like that on the internet, that sex is out there so much, but you aren't allowed to, like, you can't have a bank account, you can't, you know, because there's sex involved. It's weird and whatever. So free country, you know. So then I got all this media attention and people had feelings about things. So there was this one guy in town, or maybe a few people in town, I'm not really sure, who decided that they wanted to somehow bring me down further than I already was. So they were putting me up on slut-shaming websites and saying things like I was having sex in front of my daughter. So apparently if you're a mom, you're not supposed to have sex after you have a kid, because I swear to God, you can have sex, but the kid's not there. Like, you know, like, what the fuck? Like, what? I don't know. But I have never had sex with my kid, almost even in the house, but whatever. I mean, it's like a thing that grown-ups do. As long as you do it privately and you don't traumatize anyone, it's okay. But some people want to just go ahead and just make shit up. So that was annoying. And it's still up on there because I don't know if you can go and say, can you take that down? It's not true. I don't know. But I think it's funny now, but it was not funny at the time. And then, one by one, my social media was getting attacked by this person or somebody else. So, over and over, this was a picture that I had on Facebook, and it got me banned for a week, which is not bad. A lot of my friends get banned all the time for a week or a month at a time for a slip nipple or just random, like a thigh-high stocking or something like that. It's kind of goofy, but so that happens. And then I had a YouTube video up to show off this vibrator I had that was really noisy. It was like a lawnmower, and I was showing it. I was like, look how loud this is. It got flagged for adult content because of holding a vibrator. So then I did one with Furby, and that one's still up. You can still see. So Furby is okay in our society, but a vibrator is very bad. So, but come on. Like, would you rather see a vibrator or Furby? Very annoying. So. And then I used to be on HostGator. I'm sure a lot of you know HostGator. I thought they were a great web host, but then they took my site down one day without notice. And I was like, what? And they said, you have underage content on your website. Because I had a friend who was in her 30s, and she had posted her first sexual experience guest post about being 15 and having this experience, and they considered that underage content, and it was like child porn or something. So I had to delete that post in order to get my website back up, and once I got it back, then I switched over to Entangled Web, which is one man down in Georgia hosting my website. So I hope that he never has a heart attack or anything, because I don't know what will happen after that, you know, I don't know. So then the RFT cover, I have this guy that used to read my website very obsessively, and he was always commenting and so on, and it got out of hand where he was really getting obsessive about it and posting really long comments that have nothing to do with anything, and Bible verses and all kinds of stuff. So I finally started deleting his comments because they were distracting from my blog, and it's my blog, and he got really upset with it, and he turned into a really vicious troll, and then he turned into a stalker, and then he really got more and more. And so he took the cover from the RFT and he posted all this stuff about how he was censoring him, and then took it to Naughty Gras and posted it on the art gallery and just did his own little rogue art display or something. And I was really annoyed by all of this. It got worse and worse and worse, and I was researching what to do with the stalker. And the good news for me is that he didn't really care about me as much as he would latch on to anyone in the community that has boobs. You know, like he's into burlesque dancers, he's into all kinds of stuff. So he didn't get really attached to me. But one thing that they teach you in the book, The Gift of Fear, is you need to be really careful before you start taking steps towards getting a restraining order. Is you need to consider the fact that once you have your name married with the other person's name, they feel like you're married. You know, like it feels like this kind of binding paper that connects you forever. So I decided not to do that, and he eventually went away, and he went on to bother other people. But so that was, I really dodged a bullet, because it did get to the point where we had a public confrontation at one of the local events, and I was with people, and he came up, and so that was the worst that it got. And then it got better. So you just have to ride through it. But it was so stressful, I didn't know what to do. So it sucked. So. And then coming out 2.0 is the whole fact that I do the sex work. And as you know, in St. Louis, it's illegal to do sex work. And I thought, how much should I be talking about that? Or how much do I shade it or use euphemisms and so forth? And I thought, well, I'm just going to put it out there and see what happens. So I put it out there on Twitter, and Twitter's never done anything mean to me, which is nice, but lately I've heard they've been doing a lot of shadow banning on sex workers. So I don't even know what that term means if you want to look up shadow banning, but it means that your posts aren't as visible or something like that, but I haven't had any problems with that yet. But I decided to just go ahead and do the sex work thing, and this symbolizes the illegal aspect of it, but what's really turned into a beautiful thing is that I have found such healing work in the sex work that I do. So it's not entertainment and salacious and so forth. It's very healing. It's very therapeutic. It's very rewarding. I'm very glad that I'm able to go that route and be there, and I haven't had a problem. And I do have friends who are in law enforcement, and they have taught me that as long as you follow certain rules, and as long as you're not combining drugs with these things, or if you aren't making any public official look bad, then they don't really care what you're doing, so whatever. So that's good. And then not only am I writing about sex, but it's really transitioned, because I used to be in my 30s, now I'm in my 40s, and I think I'm going to get in my 50s, and there's just like so much shit keeps happening, and it's not just about sex, everything's connected. So we've got life and death going on as well. So I wrote about some of the clients that I've had, some of the people. My oldest client was in his 90s, and it actually ended up, it was not a good situation. It's important for me in my integrity to write about the good, the bad, and the ugly. So you can read all this stuff that will get you very excited and happy to read, and you might even pleasure yourself reading it, but then there's other stuff that will probably leave you with a little buzzkill or something. And also I wrote about my hysterectomy, posted pictures of my cervix, which I don't have anymore, so you can see my cervix, you can see a picture of my uterus, like all this lovely female reproductive stuff, and talking about my experience there. And there's pictures of me in hospital gown, not sexy, unless you're into medical role play, which that party's coming soon, but anyway. And then also, I've worked with a lot of clients who have disabilities, and I do have at least 2 clients who have passed away. They both have conditions that are related to muscular dystrophy, and I've written about that, and that stuff is just, it's very deep, it's very beautiful, and not to mention that all of these things that I go through with my menopause and my history of mental illness and my family and so forth. I have written about my suicidal ideations on there. One night where I was going to kill myself, I wrote about that. And also all this menopause stuff that I've been going through, which has been a real roller coaster and very interesting. And when I didn't know, some people don't have any effect to menopause. It doesn't bother them. It's just like a little speed bump, like a little something. But for some people, it can be very severe. If you remember going through puberty and how tumultuous that was and how chaotic and traumatic for you for a year or 2, that's what it's like for menopause. That's what it's like for a lot of people going through a lot of hormonal changes. So it's good to know, and that's why I'm putting it out there, because I think other people will find some support with it. So. And then I did my little scarlet letter photo shoot with the S for slut, and I really, truly, truly believe in the concept of being a survivor, because I think a victim is someone who allows their past to dictate their current situation and decisions, and a survivor is someone who takes those past traumas and builds off of them and becomes stronger because of them. And that's all that other stuff that I've been through. Much worse than just getting banned from Facebook for a week, but all that other stuff is so hard, but it just kind of builds you up and keeps you going forward because you have to. And of course, sex is the whole thing that ties it all together. And then I finally got to my happy place. So when I turned 40, I had my gangbang birthday, and it was the best night of my life. Like seriously, it was like my wedding night or something. It was so much fun. It was so rewarding, and it always reminds me, I don't know why, but Laura Ingalls Wilder, her happy golden years. That's what I'm having now-ish. Like, it's really happy and nice. I've gone through all those bad battles, and now I get to enjoy myself and be respected and be really fully integrated and authentic and enjoy what I want to do. And it's extremely rewarding and fun, and I'm so glad that I got to that place, because it's an uphill battle. And so, my closing line is for everyone to remember that you live in the United States of America. not the people in England later this month, but this is a free country. And so I recommend that if you're sitting in a self-imposed cage, if you're in an unhappy marriage, or if you are wanting to blog about things that you really want to talk about openly, if you want to do so many different things and you're holding back for whatever reasons, and there's plenty of good reasons, you do have the option to get that key and open it up and come on outside, because you can, but there are consequences, as you saw. So I do, and then I just want to leave you with saying, just all the bad things that happen, until you are physically dead, get up, keep getting up, keep going forward and doing what you need to do to be fully integrated, to be happy, to find your health and happiness, and to find your purpose, because happiness is about pleasure. It's about finding your flow. It's about finding that groove, that thing that makes you feel like you're losing time, that you just enjoy it so much. And also finding meaning in your life, finding something that is meaningful to other people, and finding ways that you can serve other people. And the blog has been a really great outlet for that, to share those things with people. And a lot of this stuff is tied in with fear. And one of my little things is replace the fear with love. And that leaves me with the end. So here I am. Thank you guys so much. Now tear me apart. Any questions? Anything, please?
Do you want me to keep streaming during the Q&A or not?
Yeah, so thank you so much.
Was
I appreciate it. No, that's okay. Thank you.